meeting to order, and Dan, could we have a roll call, please?
Yep, Councilmember Valento.
Here.
Councilmember Monson.
Here.
Councilmember Byström.
Here.
Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
And Mayor Bain.
Here, I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Council, we have an agenda before you this evening. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Take a motion from
second.
Councilmember Munson and a second from Councilmember Byström. I think we've got that. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our agenda is approved. Our next item this evening is open forum. Open forum is any interested party's opportunity to address council on any topic of your choosing. Do we have anybody who would like to speak in open forum tonight? Nobody signed up? Anybody would like to speak? If you're here specifically for a project, we will provide an opportunity for some project feedback as we get to those particular projects. Dan, nobody online for open forum?
There is not.
Okay, we will close open forum and move on to our consent agenda. Council, for your consideration tonight, our consent agenda items 6A through 6H. I will entertain a motion to approve or any changes.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through H. I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Byström and a second from Councilmember Valento. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our consent agenda is approved. Our next item this evening, moving on to our regular agenda, is item 7A, and it is the Teets Farm preliminary plat and subdivision variance. Sequence tonight will be, we will hear from staff. We don't have a public hearing for this, but if there is anybody who would like to speak, I would invite opportunity for comment after we hear from staff and council has a first round for questions. With that, Nathan, I'm looking for you in a different
I'm
seat
moving
tonight.
around, yes.
Yeah, creatures of habit.
Thank
Glad
you.
you're here.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Bain and members of the council. So this item is two requests in front of the city council this evening. First is a preliminary plat request for a 4-unit residential subdivision in the city. The second is for a subdivision or a variance to the subdivision ordinance. And so I'll kind of walk through those here. This property is going to be purchased and developed by a family who will inhabit these proposed lots. The future land use is a mix of rural, residential, agricultural, and conservation, and the base zoning districts here are agricultural and conservation. All right, so this property is encompassed. Dan, can we share the screen? Should be coming up online here. This is a 140-acre group of 3 parcels that currently exist. This will be subdivided into 4 parcels, which you will see here on the screen in a moment. This development is located in an area of the city with a significant amount of wetlands, and so that did factor into the review, both in the configuration of the parcels as the city now sees them, and also with the requirement for a conservation easement in the middle of the 2 southern parcels. So here on the screen, you can see the 4 different parcels. Each of these parcels is surrounded in this like pink outline. The parcels range in size from 10 acres to, with the smallest parcel, to over 50 acres on the larger southern 2 parcels. The reason that the applicants needed to request a variance is to the city's requirements for public frontage and provision of right-of-way in front of parcels. So in terms of land use, density, and units, these parcels do appear to be consistent with the planning requirements for these properties and the comprehensive plan requirements. The variance rationale, again, is the public frontage requirement, and specifically because it's not prudent for the city to extend Imperial to the south due to the significant presence of wetlands in the area. In terms of parkland dedication and estimates provided in the staff report here, but will be calculated during the final plat process. There are not any trees that will be removed with this development. We've kind of talked about the conservation easement. I'll circle it on the screens here so that you can kind of look at it. Conservation easement would include the areas occupied by wetlands, including the buffers surrounding those wetlands. So that would be the easement area that would be required through the development agreement. A neighborhood meeting was held with pretty good attendance from community members. They had an opportunity to ask questions of the developer and staff. It seemed like for the most part, they were satisfied with the information that they received. And then a public hearing was held at the last meeting the Planning Commission held. Again, a number of questions and a few comments from residents in the area. In terms of preliminary plat review, the criteria are found in the staff report. Both staff and the Planning Commission did not find any concerns with respect to those criteria for approval. Same with the subdivision variance review criteria. An engineering memo is provided in the staff report. That memo is dated March 25th. A number of comments were provided, and a condition of approval would be to satisfy those comments. Lastly, the developer did receive watershed approval, conditional approval from the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. In terms of next steps, with approval tonight, the developer would still need final plat and development agreement approval. So with all of that said, I would just mention the applicant is here this evening if you have any questions for them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nathan. Just a quick process confirmation. The final plat does come before council for final approval, is that right?
That's correct, yep.
Planning Commission first, and then we do have an opportunity for final. Okay, thank you. Council, any questions that you may have of Nathan or any member of staff on this item? Page number challenges. Somebody have the, oh, here we go. For the resolution, I have it. And the resolution for just the preliminary plat as well as the variance, is that covered in the same resolution?
The resolution is only for the subdivision variance.
Okay, got it, okay.
Mayor Bain, I move adoption of Resolution 0509-2201, approving a subdivision variance to public frontage requirements in Section 152.003 with conditions 1 through 6 as identified by staff.
I'll second.
Fabulous. We have a motion and a second. Before we move on to vote, I would provide opportunity if there's anybody from the project team that would like to provide comment to council. If there's anybody that would like to make comment. I don't think there was any council questions, but okay. Very good. Any other further discussion from the council level? Okay, with that, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. Excellent. All right, we will move on to resolution 592202, which is the McDonald's site plan amendment.
We have to approve move to approve the preliminary plat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Request, right? Okay. Mayor Bain, I move to approve the preliminary plat request for Teets Farm with conditions 1 through 6 as identified by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. All right, now we will move on to the resolution with McDonald's site plan amendment. And Nathan, this is also yours.
Thank you. So McDonald's, I think everyone's familiar with the location of this business in the city. They have requested to amend their site plan. The purpose of this site plan amendment is to, they're actually looking at a number of different improvements to the site, both in the building and outside of it. So they're looking to, for those exterior improvements, they do require site plan approval. They have requested an amendment to for staff to review the facade. So they're making exterior improvements. They're looking at improvements to the parking area, specifically with respect to ADA. They're also proposing to install a grease interceptor outside the building. That's important to help remove grease from the city's wastewater system. And then they are proposing some sign changes as well. In terms of a zoning review of the proposed changes, really the only thing that staff caught was that a number of the 3/4 of the walls, so 3 of the 4 walls on the exterior, did not meet a minimum requirement or were over a minimum threshold for a certain building material. That was identified to them. They have since resubmitted their exterior plans. Staff have not reviewed those yet, but that's proposed to be a condition of approval here, that staff reviews that and they meet that, or under that threshold. So that's the only thing that staff really had comments on. Parking and circulation seem to be acceptable. Signage, the signage that they're proposing to change met city code requirements. And no other really real exterior changes are proposed here. So the Planning Commission did review this at their last meeting. They unanimously motioned to recommend approval to the City Council here this evening. And that would be through resolution 05092202.
All right, very good. Thank you, Nathan. Council, any questions for Nathan on the McDonald's site plan amendment?
I don't think so, Mayor Bain. It appears to me like the Planning Commission has done their due diligence on this one as well.
I would agree.
Pretty thorough review. So I have all my questions answered.
I would agree. The resolution for your consideration tonight is 592202.
I have a clarifying question for Nathan. So I know there are conditions as outlined 1 through 9, but the one you cited in the resolution, but the one you cited is in addition to that?
The condition number 8 should satisfy the issue that staff identified, which is the metal accent wall coverage.
Okay.
Has to be less than 25%.
And Mayor,
Then it looks like there's 5 conditions on the planning commission on top of that.
One, yeah,
Straightforward.
we have 9 total conditions
Yeah.
that I have here in my staff report.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's the 90, okay. Yep.
Mayor Bain, I move adoption of resolution number 05092202, a resolution approving the site plan amendment for McDonald's at 1244 Broadway Avenue West with the conditions as outlined.
I'll second.
I have a motion, and we'll take a second from Councilmember Valento. Any discussion on this? Anyone from the project team like to address council? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. All right, that closes our regular agenda this evening. We do have a number of workshop sessions in our discussion portion. As we move into our workshop session, just a reminder that this is a working session of council. Anything that is discussed tonight that requires official action will come forward at a future council meeting for official vote. And with that, we will move into our first discussion item, which is 8A, the Parkland dedication repeal and replace and fee ordinance discussion. Nathan, big night for you. Also, this one's
3
yours.
for 1, thank you very much. So staff are bringing this discussion item forward. This is a proposal to repeal and replace the Parkland dedication ordinance. This ordinance is found in the city's subdivision ordinance. Parkland dedication requirements are being reviewed now. This is in reaction to both current Minnesota state statutes, which really are specific about what cities are allowed to do in terms of Parkland dedication, in addition to considering some recent case law in the state. Notably, there's been one city that was the subject of litigation because so I guess all I'll say really about that. But in any case, the changes proposed here will bring the city's Parkland dedication ordinance into pretty strict compliance with the state statutes for this. Really, the summarized changes here are that, number 1, the language is being streamlined, removing a fair amount of redundant language that's existing in the ordinance now. That's kind of the first benefit. The second one is a change to how how parkland dedication is reviewed. And specifically, there has to be a review on a case-by-case basis. So there has to be an individualized determination of the amount of land needed. And that goes back to the statutory nexus requirement of making sure there's a proportionate need for parkland. Lastly, just a note on the parkland dedication cash in lieu fee calculation. This is another change that has to be made in order to meet statutory requirements, which is that cash in lieu also has to be basically reviewed for an individualized basis. So those are at a high level the summary of the changes. What will not change is the city's requirement for parkland in both residential and commercial developments. The percentage is 10 and 5% respectively. Staff are actually proposing to increase that number in the fee schedule, which is the cash in lieu per unit. That serves as more of a, as kind of like a guideline in terms of what people should expect for their cash in lieu fee to be. This is a discussion item, so if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take those. The Planning Commission and Parks Commission have both reviewed and provided motions to recommend approval at their meetings. So the Planning Commission asked about specifically about improvements to existing parks, and there's some tricky pieces to that response that I'd defer to Amanda on for answering those as to how parks and when parks can be improved with that money. So that's really all I have prepared for you. I'm happy to take questions.
Amanda, anything further you want to add on just the existing parks? I'm not sure I have a specific question. I'm just interested in hearing more of your perspective.
Thank you, Your Honor and Council. So the limitation under the statute is that you cannot use your parkland dedication fee for maintenance. So anything that would be identified as maintenance of a park, and that can't come out of the fees that are collected as part of a cash in lieu. If it's an improvement to the park, then that can come out of your cash in lieu fees. And so part of it is just making sure that we're clearly identifying when we're maintaining something versus when we're improving something.
And an improvement would be new structure, new equipment.
Updating something, yep,
okay.
exactly. Maintenance is kind of fixing, repairing, those kinds of things.
I can see a gray line there.
It's great. Yes, it is. We're going to use the right words.
An accountant's dream. That's right. All right, questions that we might have for the parkland dedication ordinance. Just logistics right off the bat process. So we're in workshop session tonight reviewing is process and next steps just to bring it back. You'll have to publish as part of an ordinance, but you'll bring it back for approval. Okay,
Yep.
So we're kind of at the end of the process.
Yes.
Any feedback from the developer community or
Question, yeah.
any feedback from the developer community or business community that you've?
I haven't heard any comments or questions from anyone in the development community. I know that this will impact developments moving forward. Again, defer to city attorney for developments that are in process. I don't think that this will impact those developments.
Thank you, Your Honor, Counsel. So just a little bit of a kind of a broad overview. There was a case that came down about 2 months ago out of Burnsville, where they attempted to attach a parkland dedication fee to a property that was developing as industrial. And the determination by the court was that an industrial property has no impact on your park system, or very, very little, right? You're not bringing in new families into a community or anything like that. And so they found that the parkland dedication fee in that case was not valid under the statute's language. In the course of that opinion, they also articulated that under the statute, you are required to do an individualized determination. Every city, pretty much every city, has numbers, right? We just put in it's $2,500 per unit, up to 6 units per acre, X amount per unit over that. Likewise, most cities have a standard formula of land percentage. So if we're doing the land dedication instead of fee, it's 10%, anything over 6 units per acre, and you add another percentage, and there's usually a cap. Under this new rule via the Burnsville case, that's no longer the option. We have to demonstrate this particular project has some sort of impact in the community, and the parkland dedication that we are requiring bears some rough proportionality, is the term, to the impact that that is going to have on the park system. And then you also look at that under sort of the broader umbrella of what are the park goals for the city? What does the parks plan say for how many feet of open space, how many parkland space we want per resident, those kinds of things. So it is going to require more staff time to make the determination. That said, we are keeping numbers in our fee schedule to help developers have a baseline. So this can go up and it can go down based on your particular development, but you can roughly assume that we're probably going to be looking at something in this range, and those are the numbers on the fee schedule.
How do our fees compare with comparable cities?
Yeah, before we move forward, ours were low right now.
Okay,
Most of them are at the level that we're suggesting. I believe it's at $3,500. We've found most communities like us and near us are using that number.
And so Amanda's points kind of bring up another question that's kind of related around the level of specificity we have in our park plan. Are we, and I hear in your comments that there's some more staff time to make sure that we have that level of detail, but does that mean that our current park plan is maybe not as precise as we need it to be for this in the future? Or how does that look at, where do we sit from a kind of an adequacy of park plan?
We are reviewing the park plan now. As you recall, I believe the council approved a grant to update our park plan. Hopefully, not hopefully, we will be looking at the relation of the park plan to this subject, so we will make sure that we address that in the park plan.
I imagine we may not have that level of specificity that we would want to then be able to directly point to a plan and drive fees. So yeah, okay.
and I think that would be valuable information when this comes back to us for approval as well.
What exactly?
The update to the park plan, the work.
Well,
that
I'm
we
not
do.
sure it'll be ready by the time we do the ordinance for this. But we've just started, I don't even think we've started that. We just got the grant at the last meeting or the meeting before. So we will be looking at that when the park plan starts to get updated. We will also should be looking at, and it just, I might have no idea. Oh,
If I could just add one thing, the benefit of reviewing and approving the revised ordinance now is that with the increased fee and also with the new way of handling parkland dedication, the city is able to do that when and if subdivisions come in for review.
and our park plan should be looking at a standard for parkland per population. And the NRPA, National Parks and Recreation Association, has a standard that I hope we can use as a guideline to include in the park plan.
My follow-up question was more specific to park plan, but we'll cover that on a different day. Other questions related to the proposed change as presented?
I think just the language here, the change from commercial industrial to non-residential zoned property kind of reflects that issue with the industrial property.
Yeah, we want to be in line with what the statute tells us to be.
Yeah, statutorily, okay.
Any other questions? Workshop topic tonight, so certainly opportunity to get some additional questions into staff if you have any between now and when it comes forward at a future meeting. All right. With that, we will move on to our next item, which is strategic plan review and 2023 preliminary budget discussion. I am having a hard time believing it's budget season already, but here we are.
Yeah, we're starting a little earlier this
No,
year.
I think it's good we're starting early, yeah.
I think that with changing of staff and new requirements and the desire to have a substantial plan in place as soon as we possibly can, I think it's the time we should start this. We were going to start first with the capital plan with staff creation. That'll be coming in the next week or two. They're marching orders to do that. So that's one of our biggest challenges right now. And I'll go over that in just a few minutes. But before we did that, I thought we should take a look at the strategic plan and where we stand with that. Obviously, we've had some challenges with performing and to meeting our goals with the strategic plan, not only with COVID, but as I mentioned just a minute ago, we've had a lot of staffing changes that have impacted our ability to move forward in most of these areas. And with the robust development environment that we see, that's taken a lot of staff time away from any of these other goals and objectives. But we still have them, we're still aware of them, and we're still pursuing them. It just may be a little more delayed than we'd hoped at the beginning. So just to go through the strategic plan on an individual basis, Object 1, as I'll read it for you, was the City of Forest Lake is obligated to operate in a financially prudent and responsible manner while maintaining basic infrastructure for facilities and community. Develop a sound financial plan and infrastructure plan as a major component impacting quality of life and economic development. Well, we started out pretty well with this. We engaged Ellers to give us a model for a 10-year plan. We had, I believe, 3 different workshops with the council on different subjects of there. And then, fortunately, at the last time we talked about bonding and capital plan, we told you that we need to postpone that due to a number of factors, and that included supply chain issues, and that included our ability to move forward with that and the interest rates, and that we were just not ready to do that. We didn't want to take a foolhardy step or a preliminary step and bond for projects that we couldn't complete or didn't have a solid understanding or a handful on. So we hope to get that capital plan, like I said earlier, in shape to where we have a special council workshop and showing you just that portion of the budget, because it's going to be larger than what you've seen in the past. I want to make sure that we include all the water projects that we anticipate, all the sewer projects that we anticipate. Obviously, capital equipment is always in there, but things like, planning ahead for a public works building and those kind of large projects that will take a lot of work and effort and funding, and how we're going to approach that. And then that really gets us back to the 10-year plan. So recently we've hired a finance director, accounts manager, and all the other finance staff. So we're hoping to get them on board. I don't want to burden them right now to get to a 10-year plan. They have a learning curve to meet and to put our finances, organization, and understanding of those in better shape. We mentioned just a few minutes ago that we have a grant to update the master plan, park plan. That is another key component. What we've failed to do or had never addressed before was we need to have all the park projects that we're going to do in the next 10 years. Where are they going to be at? Not only Belts Park, but what are the other ones? I also attended the FLA breakfast on Thursday and asked them by the end of the month if they can give me what they believe is a capital improvement for the fields and things that they see, so we can try to incorporate those into whatever we're doing in the future. So trying to really get a more comprehensive look at all of this stuff. It may surprise you when it comes back within dollar amounts in the package, but it's just what we should be looking at. It's important. So again, we talked about presenting supply chain issues and inflationary and goods and materials. So hopefully, and then we delayed the bonding until 23 until we can get a better understanding of all of this. So we were hoped to be further on the 10-year plan, but things have gotten in the way, unfortunately. Questions on number 1 or any issues with that? Object number 2 was to provide a clear vision for the City of Forest Lakes, parks, trails, and recreation systems and facilities. Some of the actions we have taken is changing the Fenway Advisory to a full facility advisory committee. Instead of looking at just one park, we're looking at all where the athletic facilities are. Again, the grant for the master plan. We've been successful with the golf course management entering into a 5-year agreement, which gives us a lot of satisfaction and consistency on that. We've agreed to FLA with a new agreement in the last year, and we will in this year. You just heard a little bit about the approach to development and parkland. That's what we've done with the changing of the parkland dedication fees and how we're going to look at that. In the past, the city mostly looked at just a fee in lieu of parks. We're looking at what's the best answer for the area. Is it land or is it parks, or is it, I mean, is it land, or is it dollars, or is it a combination of both? And that also feeds off from the park master plan and from this, the comprehensive plan, where the park should be and what the impact is. We've assigned the responsibility of the park programming, park CIP, to be under the Community Development Department. We're hoping to give that more attention that it hasn't really gotten. Not that it's not been looked at, but it needs closer attention. And then we are still engaged with the lake associations regarding funding of the lakes and weed control and harvesting and things like that, and hope to come back to the council sometime this year with a written agreement so everybody knows what we do, why we do it, and have the clarity and transparency that that needs. I mean, it's been kind of cloudy, like the lake water. Now the lake water is clearing up, and so should our agreement with the lakes. So again, just some successes there. The Castlewood Golf Course has been wonderful. I give credit to Jamie for seeing that through. Our senior center went from a kind of an independent organization to flopping around because they couldn't find somebody to replace Sharon. So now we've taken that over, hired a senior center manager, and that actually is doing very well. I think we really found the right person for that. And I mentioned the FLAW agreement. So questions on that? Number 2, any questions on that one? Object 3 is to proactively engage in the diversified community outreach, social media, and communications. Well, we took a good step when we started. We created a job description for a media and recreation person, hired a media and recreation person. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out like we wanted to turn out. With the community development director coming in, we looked in returning that to the assistant administrator for its operation and content. We are planning for a full website update this year, a whole new look, whole new media, whole new content, graphics, and so forth. That will be started shortly, probably sometime early summer, late spring. So we're looking forward to that. That's really what we're doing. We're trying to keep on top of social media, trying to keep on top of Facebook and all those things. So I think, unfortunately, the first part didn't work out, but I think we're actually doing better than we did when we had the other position in place. So questions on any of that at this point? Dan's a hero, so. Object 4 is probably our most active of the objects whatsoever. I mean, it just really, that's what a lot of staff effort and council effort and ED effort have gone into this, to improve the environment for new and existing businesses and development by leveraging the City of Forest Lakes high quality of life advantages, natural resources, and strong schools. Again, just to recap, we've created an Invest in Forest Lake website, formed a downtown committee. We completed 2 studies for the infrastructure that we needed to do, storm and sewer. We had Open Business come and give a presentation. We had a Humphrey School study that showed us whether we're attracting people or not attracting people into the community for shopping and so forth. With the creation of the downtown committee and the thought of a downtown plan, we recruited and hired a downtown planner whose efforts should be coming to fruition in the next few weeks. That's exciting. During COVID, we had a business relief grant program that tried to help the existing businesses. We also expanded the outdoor dining restrictions to more customers so they could dine outside. That was during COVID-19, and we hope to make that expansion permanent and changing zoning ordinance in the future. That's an objective we need to get back to. Again, unfortunately, changeover of staff has slowed us down a little bit on some of the zoning issues, although I have to compliment Nathan and Franny for doing a great job on getting it all together, organizing us, and really making things work very well in this environment. So the Economic Development Authority and the Downtown Committee and the Downtown Planner are working on the plans and concepts for downtown. The Headwaters property, we worked internally as staff diligently to try to get a tenant to purchase and to build. That is still in process. And of course, most of you all know about the residential development that we've had a lot of residential submissions. Beginning prior years, it's been apartment buildings, but now we're getting the subdivisions in. We'll see how that goes with rates, interest rates going up, and if those all come to reality or not, or if some of them pull the plug. So questions on the economic development side? That's a pretty quick recap of the strategic plan. If there's any other questions.
I don't see a real intentional reference to commercial industrial here, and I don't know if I know we've had conversations about, you know, our challenges attracting commercial industrial. So I don't know where that slides in here, Patrick, but I just noted it seemed there was an omission.
Yeah, I think a lot of the commercial is centered around the downtown plan. Obviously, we have we have a good commercial base out by 35 and Broadway. Really, it's really where the market's going to be driven. We have tried to talk to some of those vendors that should be coming in. We have had inquiries on industrial. It's just a matter of if they find it a right fit, if the price is right. I think we've had 2 or 3 submissions that are kind of looking or seeing if they come in. We haven't heard back from some of those. So it's out there. It's really just what the market's going to do. You know, we've looked at, we know that the south end of town, it takes a long way to drive to go to the grocery store from there, to up here or someplace else, or to the pharmacy or to Walgreens or CVS. So we've been trying to contact those, but again, it's just that a lot depends on number of rooftops, income, and traffic and car traffic. So it's not for a lack of trying. It's just waiting for the market will catch up to us sooner or later.
We see a lot of activity, you know, our neighbor to the west. So, you know, and so
Yeah,
we're-
well,
yeah.
yeah, and that's unfortunate because that's, you know, they're mimicking what happened at Broadway and 35.
Yeah.
The interstate is a great place for businesses and commercials, and yeah, that's seems to be the popular places. So
We do have Headwaters, you know, we do highlight the Headwaters property,
Yes.
and that has been, you know, some interest, and certainly there hasn't been anything that's moved. And then also, I did, just kind of reviewing through your list, you didn't list the Airport Business Park
no, I did not.
expansion that we had, so there's a
Yes.
couple
Yes.
of,
Yeah, and there's
couple of-
interest in and there's current interest in the Airport Business Park as well. We'll be forward with that sooner than we think.
to that point, and starting to look ahead to future, you know, our entire, this is not a, it's a maybe get started in 2023, but a little bit of a longer term item. You know, if we just think about our comprehensive plan and what is planned for industrial in the southern quadrants of the city, just staging of what's needed and sequencing of what's needed somewhere in that 10-year plan of that, and it's probably on the end of the 10-year plan, but that's certainly, you know, our next pocket for significant industrial development, and I think just making sure that we're
Correct.
clear on what do we need to sequence or stage to be ready for that.
Correct, and we
But
do
that's-
have to have a comp plan, meet our zoning codes. We have to do work to make sure they match, which is something that is higher on the priority list. There's some infrastructure needs that we possibly need to proactively do. For example, the Met Council line going through our Headwaters 123 property.
Mhm.
It may be something that the city should take on to move to make that more attractive. We don't know that. We'll look at different scenarios for 123 and try to figure out if we still are interested in having one large development versus a number of smaller developments or 2 smaller developments or whatever. So there's a little more planning that we want to go forward with in the next month or two to address those needs as well. If not, I will move on to the budget if there's no other questions.
No, it's just that the budget discussions are gonna be painful this year, no question about it.
Yeah,
We're suffering from the same problem everybody else is, and,
absolutely.
you know, with these assessment values going up and all that, it's just gonna go hand in hand with the complaints we've had already, so.
Yes, it will. So part of just the outline we have here is that obviously we have to provide current level of services while keeping our costs as low as possible to the residents. That's always our goal. I think actually Forest Lake has done a fairly good job with doing that. Have not had absorbent tax increases, but moderate or low tax increases. But that's a challenge in a growing community. I mean, you've got infrastructure needs, you've got staffing needs, police, fire needs, things like that that come along with getting larger and growing. So we have to understand that. We have to understand, as the second point says, and was just mentioned, is we have to understand the tax levy in relation to the assessments and how that interacts, and try to be cognizant that people have been reassessed in quite a bit based on sales prices, which really is out of most of our control and the people's control. But we have to know that that's there and take a look and make sure we're aware of how that may affect the local residents' tax bill. We need to discuss if there's a need to increase any services or programs or moderate how they're working. Maybe not an increase, maybe not a service, but maybe a changing how that delivery. So we have to look at that. We usually always do. We try to tell the council early if we think there needs to be changes in services. I don't anticipate any large ones at this point. But again, as a growing community, you never know what's going to happen next. I already mentioned the capital improvement, capital plan that needs to be done for streets, parks, building maintenance, public works, and water sewer. That's I've explained that. We just need to have a real comprehensive look in what that number is going to be and how we're going to do it. Funding, of course, we always, again, look at the tax levy. We look at bonding. We will look at the utility rates again this summer. We'll have Ellers do a quick rate study to see how the funds are doing versus the income and see if those need adjustment. We don't like to adjust them, but again, it's, as I've said since the first time we hear, it's better to adjust them in small increments than wait to have to do it when you need a 10, 15, or 20% increment. So, so we look at that as always. And determine how the city and when the city should bond for projects in fiscal year 23 and beyond. Of course, one of the major portions in most of the budget is personnel. That's always the case in a municipal budget. The personnel is around 70-75% of the costs anyways. So most of the departments are at a good staffing level. The council did a good job last year in creating a community development director that will help us. Also adding 2 police positions, which will help that in the short term. Again, knowing that as community grows, we may need to add to those because of population growth and issues. Growth and development will always, no matter what, place increased pressure on service delivery. That's just what's happened. More streets to plow, more roads to fix, and things like that. So that's always going to happen. Again, it's because we're a growing community. One of the things that I see that I will probably recommend in the 23-year budget is one of the last personnel issues that I think that we needed to address are the main ones, and that's a second in command and fire. Police have backups, I have backups, fire doesn't have any backup. So if Al goes off on a run and runs off the road and is hospitalized for 9 months, we don't have many backups there. So I will probably be recommending and asking the fire chief to create a job description and what that might look like and adding it to the budget. I think that's wise. We also, as mentioned in the joint fire board last week, looking at possible raises for the paid on call. That's important to try to keep our service volunteer instead of going to full-time. We want to hold off full-time firefighting for as long as possible. We react to fire as well, we react to emergencies well, but you start putting full-time firefighters in, you're talking $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, depending on the level of service that you put in there. So we want to make sure that we can continue to attract and retain paid on-call volunteers so that we can hold that off as long as possible. We need to, now that Abby's here, we need to figure out the best structure for what zoning and planning administration is going to look like. Currently, we have Nathan and Franny contracted through Bolton and Make. We anticipate that continuing at least through the end of this year. But I will ask Abby for a recommendation on how that should be structured, where that should be changed, if it should be changed at all. Some of the nice part about having Nathan is most of its development work gets charged back to developers, so the cost isn't as great as we might think. But That's something we need to look at because we need to, again, like I mentioned earlier, match our zoning to the comprehensive plan. And we also need to react to the phone calls for zoning complaints that we continue to get on a daily basis. And I asked the council if there's any other priorities or any discussion they would like to talk about. So I turn it over to the council to see if there's anything else.
And so with that review of strategic plan and where we are to date and kind of a discussion of staff's thoughts on priorities going into the budgeting process, good opportunity to just open it up and hear other thoughts that might be on your mind of other priorities you would like to see considered. Open it up.
Maintaining our streets is an unbelievable job, and I don't know if we're able to even keep up, and that's the problem with it. The thing that really scares me about this whole thing is bonding costs. And we won't know that until '23, really, because I don't know what's happened to it just recently, but I imagine it's been going up. with
It's
the-
gone up a bit. It's
prime.
still affordable. It's not 7, 8, 9% or anything like that. But again, when you're long-term bonding, the rates between what it was last year and what might be in '23 probably aren't that going to be significantly impacting our ability or our desire to do bonding if we need to.
It's going to be an interesting year. Sure.
They get more interesting by the day.
Bonding, or the bonding cost is one part of that. I'm also concerned about the cost of just project costs of what that is looking like. And, you know, seeing that number flush through just kind of what our existing costs are might be a nice preliminary kind of reality check for us to do a, what is that going to cost and what does that fluctuation look like? And then
Yep.
at least a gauge of preliminary, you know, early council appetite for something beyond that. It might be a pretty, we did a lot of individual projects and a lot of individual positions last year. This might be really a focus on inflation and kind of cost of services and
Absolutely.
really allowing staff to kind of grow into the positions that we've recently funded.
Correct. Yeah, we've got challenges with, like you said, costs increase on major projects. We need to have a better estimate on what those projects now are going to cost versus what we thought. So, you know, major sewer or water projects and major street projects with the price of gasoline and what that's going to do to the asphalt prices, with the prices of piping and all that. And hopefully we'll be able to get a handle on it in the next couple of months and have a real good estimate of what those are, but we also then have 2 union contracts to negotiate. Well, last year, you know, interest rates were down to, you know, 1%, 1.5%. They're now at 8%. And
COLA number
obviously
looks
that's going to, might change that type of issue, so.
Refresh my memory, 2023, which union contracts come up?
This is the last year for both police unions. All the
Okay.
other ones are settled for 2 more years after.
Other thoughts of priorities?
Well, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add. I agree with Councilmember Husnick, and I think you too, Mayor Bain, mentioned it, the need to better understand the levy in relation to the reassessment, you know, the valuations. It's just unclear to me, and how our action will impact that. So that clarification or information, whatever you can give us to help us with that, I think would be very helpful. And then I say it every year, you know, just to really take a look at our strategic plan and our core functions and continue to focus aligning resources there, you know, public safety, you know, infrastructure, the public works, you know, the work they do, and our quality of life, you know, in the community here, to make this a good place for people to do business and live and work and play. So, and I think that's all I would add to the discussion that we've had so far.
Councilmember Byström, if you don't mind, the only thing I wanted to add to what you just said, I completely agree with all of that, is exactly how the county is going to react with the
Right.
new assessments too. So no matter what, we take the brunt of the
Right.
comments
Yes.
either way, you know, so it's going to be interesting. I keep saying that word, but I don't know what else to say.
I know, Patrick, you've done a great job leading the charge in looking for opportunities to increase efficiencies too. I guess that would be the other thing that I would add. Is there anything else that we can unearth?
Yeah,
you
and I
know.
think that has been the directive to the finance department, the new finance department, new director, and community development and the department heads. We need to do things better, smarter. Some of the past implementations of software and utility billing changes and things are all to try to efficiently do things and not have to add staff or not have to add burdens or time. And that's really the goal. We still have some may disagree with me. We have a fairly small staff for a city our size. And we, unless we want to add 10 more people administrative, which we don't, we need to find ways to do things better. And then when we ask for a position, we need to be able to justify that and tell you why we need it. And, just not hodgepodge throwing people on and trying to get more people. So you've seen that in hiring a part-time senior center, seen this part-time senior coordinator instead of full-time one. You've seen it, the social media person didn't work out, so we retooled that so we could do that, keep that inside, and then reuse those funds to do something else. And it's always at the top of my mind, and most of the departments, how we do things better and make things do the best we can. So.
And I think balancing, kind of balancing that growth and spending. I mean, and I think along with that, the importance of kind of educating our community, bringing our community along with us. They've got to understand that along with growth in the community, increasing the tax base, comes the need for greater service delivery, right?
Absolutely.
And so they don't always get that. So, I say communication all
Right.
the time. I feel like a broken record, but I think it's important. And I think when we do it and we do it well, it helps.
Does.
We get ahead of, issues.
And I think that's part of why the downtown plan, the downtown EDA, I should say, that's been out in front of the public. When that report comes back and that estimation of what it might take to actually implement a downtown plan will probably be quite a bit, and that's going to be a long discussion on how to fund downtown redevelopment. It's a big project. It'll be probably the biggest project we have on task to figure out how and when and what goes first, second, third, and so forth.
Councilmember Husnick and I had an opportunity in the Joint Fire Board to hear a presentation from Chief Newman, and I've asked him to give a similar presentation to council at an upcoming workshop just about the overall fire staffing model, and really looking at not just how do we kind of maintain our existing paid-on-call and preserve that paid-on-call model, but also be able to scale it as we grow. So yes, retention is good, but when we are, 25% population growth, will we still be able to have that model, and what does that timeline look like? And so we'll get a workshop in front of council to kind of just talk through both succession plan or a number 2 position that Patrick mentioned, as well as just making sure that we are doing all that we can to retain and attract those paid-on-call firefighters, because it is, to not have that model is incredibly expensive. So Chief has some good information to share, and we can kind of talk about that in future workshop. So, any other kind of budget items as we're kind of rolling into budget season that are top of mind?
I don't have any specific ones or priorities. I just think, and you've done a good job with this, Patrick, just giving us the information so we can make some wise and smart decisions moving forward, because I would agree we've got a tough, more maintained year coming.
The challenge.
Yeah. And I also think, just want to reiterate what Councilmember Bystrom said about the downtown plan and communication, because I think there's a lot of folks out there that think that once that plan is revealed, that it's going to happen, like tomorrow.
So
It'll
kind of-
happen if you want to put the money for it.
Exactly, managing the expectations of what that actually means, that we have a plan, but
Yeah, and I think, thank you for mentioning that, because when I did a recent presentation to the Lions Club, and one of the questions that I got on the downtown plan was, well, is the city prepared to pay for this? And I think just some clarity around, here's the cost of the plan, but then also some, along with that, some clarity on on roles of, and I kind of embedded in that question was maybe this thought that we just, a mass purchase of the entire downtown, and we're gonna take that on as a city, and which clearly is not the case. But without some of those things being clearly stated, those are the assumptions that are made, especially when they are attached to a number, and people right now, when they think big numbers, they think about their valuation assessments. And so I think it's just some clear communication on what is the plan, what's our role in that plan, and
The implementation strategy comes next after the plan, and implementation means funding, and what are the options for funding? Again, what are the roles and responsibilities of a private development or a public, like you say, do we buy everything, tear it down, start over? Well, I doubt that that's gonna happen, but yeah, we have to, the implementation comes next after the plan's presented.
And I would say potential funding sources to help make that happen as well. It isn't necessarily just taxing our citizens.
No, it's not.
Opportunities for, grants, for example.
Private investment.
all right, anything else related to budget workshop discussion? Okay, let's move on to staff updates, and we'll start with Dan, just kind of take our usual path around.
Mayor, members of the council, just a couple of updates. The first is downtown planning. The next downtown planning meeting will be next Monday, the 19th. We had to reschedule that, which was originally scheduled for tonight. So we moved that back to next Monday, the 16th at 6:30. So that'll be the next downtown planning meeting. And then on the website, I am meeting tomorrow with Civic Plus to do the kickoff meeting for the implementation of the new site. So I should get some updates on schedule for what the schedule looks like for when we start doing the redesign. And also we'll be working with them on some of the priorities of the redesign. And as part of that, I have been going back through the last 2.5 years worth of analytics to really use past use to drive redesign. And this is the first time when I've looked back at the analytics that we've actually have more mobile users now than desktop. So that finally switched over. We're sort of slowly going that direction, and now we are seeing more mobile access. So that's going to be a big driver, is ensuring that it's mobile compliant as we move forward. So kickoff tomorrow, and I'll report back with what the schedule looks like as soon as I have that from Civic Plus. And that's what I have, unless there's questions of me.
And Patrick.
No, the only thing I have is to welcome Abby to the Community Development Director position. She's been here 1 week, and I'm thoroughly impressed with her knowledge and skill set, and I look forward to great things from her.
Welcome again. And Amanda.
Nothing other than that I've had the privilege of working with Abby over in Stillwater, and I echo everything that Patrick just said. You got a great find, so be excited for her, or you, I guess.
Nathan.
Nothing from me, but I would echo everything everyone else has said.
Good. Abby.
Well, I thought really long and hard, other than, hey, it's my first week and I'm new, thanks for being here. And I had a really good one. We did a kickoff to the park plan last week. Jamie Mache, had to stop a second.
Well done.
And I met with our team. I think we've got a preliminary schedule. Once it's available, we can share that with you. But what we're trying to do more than anything right now is really look at where are those public engagement opportunities, including maybe some potential pop-up events in the park, looking at the Tuesday night event.
Arts in the Park.
Thank you,
Yep.
Arts in the Park. So
Nice.
looking forward to working with Jamie on that and with all of you on all of everything, I think. So.
All of it. Excellent. And Damon, update? You're good? Okay. Chief Peterson.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council members, good evening. I have an update for you on the numerous incidents of vandalism that have occurred over the past week. We have recently posted a public portal on our FLPD Facebook page where we're asking for the public's assistance on any information, pictures, or videos that they may have. And what they can do is they can actually upload those and that information. And it can be anonymous, but we do ask, usually, we do ask for their name and their email in case we need to reach back out to them, but it is all private and confidential. I personally use the link and it's very easy to use. It's one of those items that software programs that we purchased, or part of the software program that we purchased last year. And this is the first time we're using it, and it's fantastic. So I do want to thank you. You probably don't remember in last year's budget, but it is a fantastic tool for us to use, and we're going to continue using it whenever we need to. We have received dozens of tips from residents and community members in regards to the vandalism. And I really can't get in too much detail because it's still under investigation, but I can tell you that we're making significant progress, which is great.
Has most of it been isolated in the one neighborhood, or is it gone
Yeah,
citywide?
it has been.
Isolated?
Yeah, there's been 2 incidents that you know of in 2 different parks, without mentioning them. But
Understood.
they, one of the areas had gotten hit really hard. I guess if there's an upside is the fact that it has rained, so it's been a little bit more quiet right now. But we are out there. We are being very visible, speaking with residents, and they have reached out to us and thanked us for that. So, lastly, I have for you is the Forest Lake Safety Camp will be held again here at the City Center this year, June 14th, which is Tuesday, and it is for kids entering 3rd grade through 5th grade. And this has been a great camp over the years, and I believe this is the 27th year that we've assisted with the camp. So we're looking forward to that. And applications can be found at the police department or online. And that's all I have for you, unless you have some questions for me.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Newman.
Mayor, member of the council, I have a few updates today. With all the rain that we've had and thankfully warmer weather in the last few weeks, the fire danger has significantly improved. With that, I want to remind the public that we are still in burning restrictions, and the public can go to the DNR website under fire danger and receive a daily update for whether or not permits are required in order to burn both in Forest Lake and Columbus. With that warmer weather comes severe weather. Earlier today at around 5:15, Minnesota State Patrol reported a funnel cloud just west of Highway 8, or west of 35, just north of Highway 8. Thankfully, that funnel cloud did not extend to the ground, but it is a warning that severe weather is around in these warmer summer months. So some of the things that the residents can do to protect themselves and be better informed is purchasing a weather radio, turning into radio or TV for weather updates, moving indoors and taking shelter when they hear a severe weather warning siren activation, making sure that flashlights, portable radios, and cell phones are charged and ready to work when there is a possibility of severe weather in the area. Those few things can make a big difference in the impact of severe weather in the area. Last Thursday, we had our joint fire board meeting. At the joint fire board meeting, the main 2 topics were wages and replacement of engine 2. At the next council meeting, we will bring a proposal for that replacement. And currently it is, or this week it will be discussed at the Columbus City Council. So at the end of the month, or next council meeting, we will be looking for approval for that. Last Tuesday, May 3rd, we had a structure fire located on 217th Street North in Forest Lake. During firefighting operations, we did have 4 firefighters that were injured. Thankfully, they were minor injuries, and all firefighters are doing great. Good news is no lost time, and all firefighters are now back to work. That's all I have for updates.
Any questions for Chief? Nice service on that structure fire. It was a big event, so. Kim?
No updates, thank you.
All right, and Kevin?
Mayor and council, just a couple updates from finance. Just echo what Patrick said, now that the audit starting to wrap up a little bit and the auditors are done with what they call their field work and they're now looking at the report. We're shifting our minds to looking forward to the budget and also looking at, as Patrick mentioned, our software and finding how our different modules are set up and making sure those are set up correctly and most effectively and efficient as possible, as we are finding some things that we can do differently there to improve our processes.
Fabulous.
When is our audit done? Is it done now for the year?
Our audit, like I said, the field work is done. What that means is they come in and look at all of our balance sheet items, assets,
Understood, yes.
liabilities, revenue and expenses, and make sure that's right. As you know, the audit report is quite extensive where there's a lot of different statements and notes in there. So they're going to be currently starting to work on that portion of it. Just with the timing of it and being new to the city, we're planning on presenting at either the first or second meeting in June, this depending on timing of when that can get turned around on their end. So I should have an update for you at the next meeting for when that will be completed.
Thanks.
Very good. All right, we'll move on to council updates, and we'll start with Councilmember Munson.
No update tonight.
All right, Councilmember Byström.
No update from me.
All right, Councilmember Husnick.
I attended the Airport Commission meeting, which took place last Wednesday, and again, it was pretty much for our CIP, and we are going to be doing a small project out there, and so that's been approved, and we went through our finances to make sure that we were covered on that. It's a 95.5, I believe, right, Dan? Project, so, which is a very good number, 95% paid by MnDOT. And again, one of the things that came up at the meeting is, exactly how do we stand with our budget? And that's why I asked about the audit, because we really are waiting for that final number. So then we're gonna know where we're at. Also, I attended the Joint Powers meeting along with Mayor Ban and several others, and it's pretty well been covered tonight and what was discussed between Patrick and Alan also. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Valente.
I attended the Spring Fling and it was very successful. So thanks to everyone who volunteered at that and attended, and it was a really great event.
Great, thanks. Fabulous. I don't have an update beyond, I mentioned the attendance of the Joint Fire Board, and again, council will see the fire truck purchase on an upcoming agenda, and we'll do a workshop session as well on staffing and just overall engagement at the fire department. With that, that is the end of our planned agenda this evening. Again, just a reminder, we are in joint workshop with the Downtown Plan Group next Monday at our regular 6:30 workshop time. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.